Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today. Also, you can request any novel so I can turn into audiobooks. Check out our Patreon for more details.
31, Chapter 31, Watching in the Shadows. We can't let Charles rob us back, can we? Upon receiving this assignment, Tonks, eager to prove herself, immediately used her ability to change her appearance into that of a man, then rushed from the Aurora training grounds to Diagon Alley. With a crack of apparition, Tonks appeared in an empty space in Diagon Alley. Looking at the bustling scene in Diagon Alley, packed with people, parents bringing young wizards to shop, Tonks, who had just graduated from Hogwarts, felt a moment of emotion. Time really flies. It's another year for new students to enroll, and I've already graduated. As Tonks was feeling sentimental, she noticed that every shop in Diagon Alley seemed to be a bit short on stock this year, with long queues forming outside. Yet, at the same time, shop assistants were carrying boxes, clearly enchanted with the undetectable extension charm, towards the leaky cauldron. Tonks' heart stirred, and she was about to step forward to inquire when several wizards in black robes got there before her, asking the shop assistants with curiosity, "Are these all for that young wizard Charles? So many things, how many galleons must that cost? How can one person eat and use all of this?" The shop assistants smiled and shook their heads. "How would we know?" But old Tom at the leaky cauldron said he sends 80 deluxe meals to that young wizard Charles every day, and they're all gone within 10 minutes. He even suspected that young wizard Charles was keeping some magical creature with a huge appetite in his room, but that's none of our business. He's rich and so generous and straightforward, we just sell and that's that. After answering these curious inquiries, the shop assistants from several stores continued to deliver goods to Charles. Hearing this conversation, Tonks' eyes showed a look of certainty. No wonder they asked me to investigate, there must be something fishy about this Charles. He eats and uses so many things by himself? How is that possible? 8 times out of 10, there's really someone behind him guiding him, who found a loophole in the Ministry of Magic's protocol and is profiting from it. Tonks' expression became excited. In her opinion, anyone who could find a loophole in the Ministry of Magic's protocol must be a cunning old wizard, perhaps even a habitual offender who specializes in magical protocol fraud. Charles must also be being used, becoming a scapegoat pushed to the forefront by those wizards. This time, perhaps she could follow the clues and catch a big fish. She clenched her wand, feeling her heart rate quicken. 7 years of studying at Hogwarts, finally becoming an intern, building a career and achieving successes today. Tonks took a step and walked towards the leaky cauldron, planning to find an opportunity to stake out Charles there and see if any suspicious wizards were entering or leaving Charles' room. However, in her excitement, Tonks didn't notice that the black-robed wizards who had just questioned the shop assistants had subtly glanced at her back, their eyes filled with suspicion. That man just now seemed to have been standing nearby, listening to us gather information. Now he's heading straight for the leaky cauldron. Is he also here for Charles? A dangerous glint appeared in their eyes. A competitor? But after a moment, a look of disdain appeared in their eyes. Doesn't look like it. If he were a competitor from Nocturne Alley, he wouldn't be so unguarded. 8 times out of 10, he's a novice who got greedy at the sight of wealth. His intentions are too obvious, he's easy to deal with and poses no threat to us. Just keep an eye on him. Immediately, one of the wizards followed far behind Tonks. He would occasionally browse in nearby shops, occasionally greet the young wizards and their parents coming towards him, but he always maintained a certain distance from Tonks, finally stopping in an inconspicuous corner outside the leaky cauldron. The other wizards also looked towards the leaky cauldron. Watching the large boxes being delivered into the leaky cauldron, their eyes held an uncontrollable greed. Charles had been spending money like water in Diagon Alley these past 2 days, likely spending close to 10,000 galleons. Although he was using the Ministry of Magic's protocol for reimbursement, in the eyes of others, while spending lavishly was a skill, being able to get reimbursed was clearly even better. Such a young wizard must come from an extraordinary background and have a deep foundation. In other words, he was very valuable, perhaps even more valuable than the same weight in gold. Just flipping open one of his money bags might contain an endless supply of galleons. These black-robed wizards in Nocturne Alley were very envious and planned to pull a job on Charles. After this job, who would still be struggling in Nocturne Alley, living a life with their heads on the line, just dealing in prohibited items all day? How much money does that even make? But this Charles is truly hateful. So what if he's rich? Does being rich mean he doesn't have to respect people? He makes the shop assistants deliver goods to him every day. This is exploitation. This is oppression. According to what I've heard muggles say, he should be hanged from a lamppost. Would it kill him to come out and pick up the goods himself? It makes it hard for us to kidnap him. Now he stays in his room on the second floor of the Leaky Cauldron every day. This place is a mixed bag. Kidnapping him here is practically suicide. What should we do? After a moment of thought, the leading dark wizard proposed an idea. Have you noticed? Everything this Charles buys is a magical item. He basically doesn't take ordinary items. What does that tell us? It tells us he has discerning taste and looks down on ordinary stuff. He only wants magical items. If we can produce a rare magical item or material, perhaps we can lure him out of the Leaky Cauldron. If we can trick him into Nocturne Alley in the evening, then this matter is practically guaranteed. A few battle-hardened dark wizards like us, subduing a little wizard who hasn't even started school yet, isn't that easy? As soon as this suggestion was made, the remaining few all nodded in agreement. Then came a crucial question. Where do we find rare magical items and materials? Do you have any? If we could afford that stuff, would we need to take such a risk and come up with this idea? The leading dark wizard said decisively, we don't have that many galleons right now, but we can pull some money and go to Gringotts for a mortgage loan. At worst, we can mortgage our wands and houses. Think about it, as long as we buy the rare magical items and materials, trick Charles out, and pull this off, what's this small amount of money? At most, if our operation fails, we can just sell the magical items and materials again. Losing a bit of money is all. He said half-jokingly. It's not like a few of us will fail to kidnap him and instead get robbed by Charles, losing everything, right? When he said this, the other dark wizards were amused and laughed. After the laughter, determination appeared in the eyes of the few people. Let's do it. Let's go to Gringotts for a mortgage loan now. Join me on Patreon if you want to request a novel, link in the description. 32. The Unicorn Horn, who made me kind-hearted. At Gringotts, the goblin behind the counter looked at the few wizards in black robes outside with surprise and confirmed again. Gentlemen, are you sure you want to mortgage your properties, wands, and the few magical items you have? If you fail to repay by the due date, according to the agreement, all of these will belong to Gringotts. The dark wizard said impatiently. Yes, that's right, stop asking, just give us the mortgage galleons quickly. While waiting at the counter, their eyes occasionally looked outside, appearing quite anxious. After all, who knew if any of their peers would also target Charles, this big fat sheep? If someone got there first, they would have truly wasted their efforts. Seeing their appearance, a strange look flashed in the goblin's eyes. It chuckled. Gentlemen, don't be anxious. Looking at you, you must have a big business to do, which is why you are here for a mortgage loan. I want to congratulate you on your fortune first. But honestly, wands, properties, and a few magical items can't be mortgaged for many galleons. Are you sure it's enough? After all, you all look like people doing big business. If the galleons are too little and you can't make ends meet, wouldn't that be troublesome? Hearing this, the few dark wizards exchanged glances, feeling quite hesitant. Indeed, to trick Charles out of the Leaky Cauldron and get him to go with them, they would definitely need to produce quite precious items. Such things could be found in Nocturne Alley, but the prices were more expensive than the last. They weren't entirely sure if the mortgaged galleons would be enough to buy such items. At this moment, an eager look appeared on the goblin's face. How about this? Gringotts recently launched a new service called Leverage Loan. Through this method, you can obtain far more galleons than usual. As for the cost, the interest will be slightly higher, and the consequences of not being able to repay by the due date will also be more troublesome. But as long as you can repay, it's not a problem. This is the best way to solve a funding shortage. Under the goblin's persuasion, the hesitation on the faces of the few dark wizards gradually turned into determination. Indeed, as long as they kidnapped Charles, tens of thousands of galleons would likely be easy. Would they still be afraid of not being able to repay Gringotts' loan then? Leverage, right? Starting at 5 times? No, 5 times is too little, 10 times. Forget it, max it out directly. Soon, the dark wizards who had signed the Gringotts agreement left Gringotts with bulging money bags, their faces filled with excitement and anticipation. With this money, we can buy truly good things to lure Charles out. We're going to be rich. That night, Charles was still in his room, flipping through the many magic books he had bought from Flourish and Blots. From time to time, a prompt from Deep Blue would flash in his mind, telling him that he had obtained material in a certain field and that deducing the corresponding knowledge could reduce the consumption of deduction points. At the same time, next to Charles, an assembly line was running. This assembly line was transformed by him using transfiguration, with the raw materials being the vases, tables, chairs, plates, and so on in the room. And now, they had been transformed by Charles into an assembly line that continuously transported the magical items in the box to Charles's mouth. In this way, Charles could obtain materials by flipping through books while opening his mouth to swallow magical items and gain deduction points. This was much more convenient. Charles couldn't help but exclaim. As expected, magic changes life. However, the only pity was that these magical items were all common goods, mostly quick quotes quills or prank items similar to Nosebleed Nougat. Their magic was weak, and there were none that contained powerful magic. Although the continuous input still caused Charles's total deduction points to soar significantly compared to before, reaching nearly 80,000 points again. But remembering the pleasure of drinking the elixir of sublimation in large gulps and feasting in the dream relay, Charles still felt a bit of a gap. I wonder when I can go back to those days. Dak, my Dak, I miss you so much. And will I, my holy land and dreams, let me eat there again. Ah no, let me see it again. Just as Charles was reminiscing with emotion, there was a knock on his door. It was a message from old Tom. Mr. Charles, there's someone in the lobby looking for you. They said they might have something you'd like. Charles raised an eyebrow, a thoughtful look in his eyes. He didn't seem to know anyone in the wizarding world, nor did he have any friends. Coming to find him so late? A hint of vigilance rose in his heart. However, after a moment of thought, Charles still walked out of his room. If this person could really produce something that interested him, then meeting them wouldn't hurt. With so many trump cards in hand, even if the other party had some scheme, Charles wasn't afraid of ordinary wizards. Immediately, Charles arrived at the Leaky Cauldron's main hall and saw a middle-aged wizard who looked honest and simple. The wizard's face was full of humility and nervousness, revealing a fawning expression. He looked like the kind of honest person who was often bullied. At this moment, seeing Charles come out, the wizard carefully took out a package from his bosom and said with a flattering smile, "Are you Mr. Charles? I heard you bought a lot of magical items in Diagon Alley, and I remembered that my family seems to have a few inherited items. I wanted to see if you'd be willing to buy them." As he spoke, a bitter expression appeared on his face. "It's quite shameful to say, but my daughter is also starting Hogwarts this year, and I can't even afford to buy her a new wand. If you could take my things, I could buy her a new wand and a new robe." Charles listened to the middle-aged wizard's words, nodding repeatedly, his expression seemingly moved. However, Charles' heart sneered. This kind of story might have worked in the 90s, but he had heard this kind of story thousands of times in his previous life. How could he believe it so easily? He firmly believed one thing: truly suffering and nervous people rarely show their difficulties and pain to others. Generally, those who are eager to tell a stranger about such things, especially when related to money, are 99% scams. Charles believed in the existence of truth, goodness, and beauty in the world, but he never hesitated to assume the worst intentions of the other party. Immediately, his gaze fell upon the package. When the middle-aged wizard opened the package, Charles' pupils slightly contracted. Inside was a small horn. Charles had read quite a few papers on animagi these past few days, and coupled with the fact that transfiguration also involved many animal characteristics, Charles recognized it at a glance. This was the horn of a young unicorn. Although it had been stored for some time, and the magic within was far less than when the unicorn had just died, this item was still a treasure. Most importantly, the wizarding world had passed a resolution long ago prohibiting the hunting of unicorns for their horns, so unicorn horns were extremely rare and prohibited items. As soon as this item was taken out, Charles was completely certain that the honest-looking middle-aged wizard opposite him was by no means a good person. This unicorn horn was clearly bait to lure him. It was truly difficult for the other party facing such a young wizard. They still went to the trouble of setting up such a scheme, and their acting was quite good. Charles' expression shifted, and he chuckled. "Oh, this is a horned beast's horn, it's not worth much. However, sir, I truly sympathize with your daughter. How about this, 3 galleons, I'll take your horned beast's horn, and you can go buy your daughter a wand." As soon as these words were spoken, the middle-aged dark wizard opposite him clenched his fists, a look of disbelief flashing in his eyes, and he was already cursing inwardly. Horned beast's horn? This was clearly a unicorn horn. He had bought it in Nocturne Alley for 500 galleons. As a result, this Charles opened his mouth and called it a horned beast's horn, and only offered 3 galleons. Damn, this little wizard was even darker than a dark wizard. However, this also confirmed it. This shameless style was either from a noble family, a big merchant family, or a family of Ministry of Magic officials. After all, normal people wouldn't do such a shameless thing. Then, the middle-aged dark wizard felt a wave of relief. Fortunately, he had leveraged everything at Gringotts, gotten a bit more galleons, and bought a few more items. Otherwise, just buying a unicorn horn wouldn't seem to satisfy the greed of this little wizard, Charles. Immediately, he quickly put on a look of surprise and said, 3 galleons? This is truly wonderful, this way my daughter can buy a new wand. However, the money for a new robe and new textbooks is still not settled, but I have a few more things like this at home, all passed down from my ancestors. They are just bigger than this and inconvenient to bring over. Mr. Charles, my home is nearby, why don't you come with me to take a look? Charles sneered in his heart. As expected, they want to lure me out. It seems I've been quite conspicuous in Diagon Alley these past 2 days. It's really quite something that they went to such lengths to set this up. If it were another young wizard, they might have been easily tricked and led away. However, Charles still had a question in his heart. Unicorn horns are quite valuable. Even a young unicorn's horn would be worth at least several hundred galleons, and you'd need connections to even buy one. Looking at the situation, the other party seemed to have prepared other bait as well, likely no less valuable than a unicorn horn. Adding it all up, it would easily be over 1,000 galleons. That's not poor in the wizarding world. Why would someone so rich take such a risk to do this? But after a moment, Charles suppressed the question in his heart. Who cares? Since they're targeting me, if I don't take this bait, wouldn't it be a waste? Consuming a few magical ingredients like a unicorn horn would definitely push my deduction points past 100,000, maybe even 150,000. That way, even if I forcefully perform a second deduction on the animagus transformation, I'd have plenty of points. So Charles pretended to be hesitant, first pulling the unicorn horn from the other party's hand and stuffing it into his embrace. Then he thought for a while longer before finally sighing. Alright, I'll go with you and take a look. No choice, I guess. Who told me I have a kind heart? The middle-aged wizard opposite him was practically grinding his back teeth. You call this a kind heart? Kind my ass. But he still gritted his teeth and squeezed out a tearful expression of gratitude. Yes, 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 Mr. Charles, you truly have a kind heart. I thank you on behalf of my daughter. However, the middle-aged dark wizard had already made up his mind. The moment Charles entered Nocturne Alley, he guaranteed he would show Charles what cruelty was. Join me on Patreon if you want to request a novel, link in the description. 33. Acromantial Venom, Dragon Heart, Lucky Day. The bustling daytime activity of Diagon Alley had faded into the quiet and desolation of night. On the street, the middle-aged dark wizard led Charles to the entrance of a nearby alley. The signs and warnings at the alley entrance had been temporarily removed, making it look like countless other unremarkable alleys at first glance, only appearing particularly deep and dark. But if some experienced wizards were to come here, they would likely turn pale at the sight of this alley. This was the place where various illegal transactions in the wizarding world occurred, and also a frequent haunt of dark wizards, Nocturne Alley. Some wizards who stumbled in here saw nothing and left safely, while others had close calls. But there were also some who completely vanished without a trace. At this moment, the middle-aged dark wizard had brought Charles here and was trying his best to persuade Charles to go in with him. Mr. Charles, my family is waiting for the galleons to buy my daughter a wand and robes. You wouldn't want to see your future classmate, a sweet little girl, go to school wearing old robes that people laugh at, would you? Charles shrugged at this and said leisurely, is it possible that in the future, I'll be one of the people laughing at her? The middle-aged dark wizard choked, then laughed awkwardly. How could that be? Mr. Charles is kind-hearted, you're a good person. At these words, Charles finally nodded with satisfaction. You do have good judgment. Since you've said so, fine, I'll take a loss and take your things. Immediately, Charles drew his wand. The middle-aged dark wizard's heart skipped a beat. Mr. Charles, what are you taking out your wand for? Charles chuckled and chanted the spell. Luminosity flicker. A soft glow erupted from the tip of his wand, illuminating the path ahead. He said with a smile, the road ahead is so dark, I'll use a luminosity spell to light the way. I dare to go into an alley like this with you, you're not afraid of a little wizard like me, are you? The middle-aged dark wizard thought about it and agreed. A little wizard who hadn't even started studying at Hogwarts could at most cast a luminosity spell. How could he be a match for a vicious dark wizard like himself? He probably thought that just hearing the words dark wizard would make this little wizard wet his pants. So he grinned and complimented Charles. Mr. Charles is indeed from a prestigious family. You can use the luminosity spell so skillfully before even starting school. Your future is limitless. Immediately, he led Charles, step by step, into Nocturne Alley. Meanwhile, in the shadows not far away, Tonks saw this scene and heard the conversation between Charles and the Dark Wizard. Her heart was filled with anxiety. She was an Aura trainee, after all, and of course, she knew what kind of place the alley Charles had entered was. It was Nocturne Alley, a place that most wizards in the wizarding world turned pale at the mention of. This was also the result of a compromise between the Ministry of Magic and the Dark Wizards, allowing the Dark Wizards a place to trade. There were anti-detection spells inside, so it didn't matter if Dark Wizards double-crossed each other in there. As long as they didn't use unforgivable curses or conduct any horrific experiments, the Ministry of Magic would turn a blind eye and pretend nothing had happened. After all, the group of Dark Wizards had always existed in the wizarding world and were impossible to completely eliminate. If they were to cut them off completely, leaving them with no place to trade or make a living, so many Dark Wizards would be scattered throughout Britain, and the Ministry of Magic wouldn't have enough manpower to handle it. Therefore, once inside Nocturne Alley, due to the anti-detection spells, if Charles were to be kidnapped by these Dark Wizards, it wouldn't be so easy to find him. And these Dark Wizards had gone to great lengths to trick Charles over, so their intentions were naturally not simple. Thinking of this, whether out of her own mission or her innate sense of justice, Tonks could not stand by and watch all this happen. Immediately, Tonks drew her wand and prepared to rush into Nocturne Alley to rescue Charles. But the next moment, a binding charm flew from behind Tonks, hitting the unsuspecting Tonks. The Dark Wizard who had been tracking Tonks earlier sneered as he watched Tonks fall to the ground. Idiot, so green and trying to stake out. Today's your unlucky day. As he waved his wand, Tonks's wand flew to the side, and ropes also wrapped around Tonks. A look of regret appeared on Tonks's face. She had never expected that she had been discovered long ago and was being secretly watched by a Dark Wizard. This is the end of the line. Forget saving Charles, I might even get dragged down with him. At this moment, Charles, who had entered first, had his retreat cut off by the middle-aged Dark Wizard behind him, while two other wizards in black robes appeared in front. His eyes showed a strange look, and he asked faintly, "The things I want to collect, have you brought them?" The middle-aged Dark Wizard behind him showed a mocking expression. He didn't expect Charles to still not react to this situation and was still thinking about collecting things. The two black-robed wizards also laughed. Brought them, our young master Charles, please take a look." Then, the two black-robed wizards took out two packages. One package contained a glass bottle, and inside the glass bottle was a green liquid. The other package contained a shriveled, persimmon-shaped object, but it was the size of a football. Charles narrowed his eyes, recognized the two items, and an uncontrollable look of fervor appeared on his face. The glass bottle contained a chromanchula venom, and quite a bit of it, which was an extremely rare magical material. The football-sized, persimmon-shaped object was a shriveled dragon heart. Although a long time had indeed passed and it was not in a fresh state, and there was definitely not a drop of dragon blood left, the value of a dragon heart was still quite high. These were precious materials that were difficult to buy through normal channels. Besides Nocturne Alley, it would be hard to find them even if you searched the entire Diagon Alley. Charles licked his lips and said, "A bottle of unknown spider blood, it's quite disgusting, give me 12 sickles. And that, tisk, shriveled animal entrails, you even brought this for me to buy." "Forget it, who told me I'm kind-hearted, 1 galleon. Adding the two together, I'll round it up for you, I'll take both for 2 galleons. As he spoke, Charles took out 2 galleons and smiled. "You don't need to thank me, it's only right to help people in need." This time, besides the middle-aged Dark Wizard who had seen Charles' face before, the other two Dark Wizards were also stunned. "Damn, this is a chromanchula venom, how did it become unknown spider blood? 12 silver sickles? Do you know how many galleons a pint of this stuff is? And this is a dragon heart, how can you have the nerve to say it's shriveled animal entrails? You're only giving 2 galleons for both? How can your heart be so dark at such a young age?" Charles spread his hands and said, "How can this be a dark heart? I warn you, you are insulting my character. Originally, if someone else insulted me like this, I would definitely argue with him to the end and demand mental compensation. But you are already in difficulty, if I were to do such a thing again, would I still be human? I am just kind-hearted, I don't need compensation, you just need to leave the things." In Nocturne Alley, silence echoed. The 3 Dark Wizards looked at Charles, feeling a sense of gnashing teeth, as if 10,000 grass-mud horses were galloping through their hearts. This is called kind-hearted? This is simply being obsessed with money. The middle-aged Dark Wizard who brought Charles over could no longer bear it, drew his wand, and roared, "You damned little wizard, parasite, vampire, you even dare to say you're kind-hearted, I've tolerated you for a long time. To tell you the truth, this is Nocturne Alley, hee hee, we specifically tricked you here. You didn't think we were really going to give you things, did you? Just wait and see how I deal with you." Just then, at the entrance of Nocturne Alley, Tonks, who was tied up, was also dragged in by the Dark Wizard who was keeping watch. The Dark Wizard said disdainfully, "I've subdued this idiot." This fool was still completely bewildered when I knocked her down. Tonks looked at the total of 4 Dark Wizards in Nocturne Alley, and the look of despair in her eyes grew stronger. She couldn't even maintain the effect of her Oxio, and returned to her original appearance. Her pink hair and youthful, beautiful face were extremely eye-catching in Nocturne Alley. The 4 Dark Wizards were stunned for a moment when they saw Tonks' true face, and then they all laughed. "Good, we thought it was a man, but it turned out to be a witch?" Several greedy gazes lingered on Tonks. "This is really tender and young, just graduated from Hogwarts, right? Tisk tisk, it must taste good. After we've had our fun, the parts of your body can sell for quite a few galleons. Merlin's beard, you really favor us. Today is truly our lucky day." Listening to their chilling words, Tonks couldn't help but show a look of terror in her eyes. If she were to fall into such a situation, she would rather be hit by a killing curse. But just as the few Dark Wizards couldn't help but laugh wildly with smugness, Charles looked at Tonks, whose hair color and appearance were changing, as if he had seen something that surprised him. With these characteristics, she was definitely a metamorphmagus. This was an important material indicated by the deep blue system, which could greatly reduce the points required for the subsequent deduction of animagus transformation. Charles had originally planned to find Tonks later, but unexpectedly, by some strange coincidence, Tonks was actually here. He couldn't help but laugh out loud. First a unicorn horn, then a chromachilla venom and a dragon heart, and now a metamorphmagus. Merlin's beard, I don't know if today is your lucky day, but it's definitely mine. Join me on Patreon if you want to request a novel, link in the description. 34. Don't mess around, Nocturne Alley isn't beyond the law. At the entrance of Nocturne Alley, Charles' laughter echoed along with that of the Dark Wizards. Gradually, the Dark Wizards' laughter stopped. The 4 Dark Wizards stared blankly at Charles, who was still laughing hysterically, and fell silent for a moment. After a while, the leading Dark Wizard angrily rebuked, "Laugh, you're still laughing? Do you know what's happening right now? Let me tell you, this is Nocturne Alley. The laws of the wizarding world don't apply here. No one will know what happens here. If you're hoping someone will come to save you by delaying time, you've got the wrong idea." A sinister look appeared in the eyes of the 4 Dark Wizards, and they all raised their wands. At this moment, Tonks, who was bound by ropes, roared, "Are you crazy? Charles is still a child. If you're short on money, come at me, don't hurt that child." The Dark Wizard's gazes immediately fell on Tonks. "You?" Tonks gritted her teeth. "I have relatives in both the Black family and the Lestrange family. They are ancient families with great reputations in the wizarding world, immense wealth, but few heirs. I have money. If you want money, I can have these 2 families gather it. You let Charles go." When these Dark Wizards heard this, they were overjoyed, and the ecstasy and greed in their eyes were completely unrestrained. "I didn't expect it. So you're also a noble lady. I knew today was our lucky day. But if we can earn 2 shares of money, why earn less? We want both of you, not one less." While Tonks was filled with despair, racking her brain for a way to escape with Charles, the 4 Dark Wizards raised their wands again, aiming at Charles. It was at this moment that they saw Charles also raising his wand to face them. The Dark Wizards all laughed. "Oh, a very brave little wizard. You'll definitely go to Gryffindor in the future. But what are you doing with that wand? Are you going to use a Lumos spell to celebrate with us like fireworks?" A playful smile appeared on Charles' lips, even with a hint of anticipation. To be honest, other than the time with Dark, Charles had never truly used his wand in a real fight. With so many new spells deduced, wouldn't it be a shame not to practice them? The next moment, Charles waved his wand decisively and said softly, "Dust-free land." The dust-free land spell instantly poured out. A dominant, all-repelling invisible magical power formed a domain, spreading out from around Charles at an extremely fast speed, enveloping these Dark Wizards. When the Dark Wizards saw Charles' spell, but didn't see any spell light, they were all amused and burst into laughter. "What kind of spell is this? Oh, it's amazing, truly amazing. It must be a spell you, this incredible little wizard, created yourself, right? It's terrifying, I almost peed my pants." But the next moment, as the domain of the dust-free land spell swept and spread, and they tried to stun Charles with spells, they were horrified to discover something. The magic, like blood, like instinct, had actually disappeared. Even their wands seemed to have turned into broken wooden sticks, completely useless. They waved their wands in vain, but there was no reaction at all. Even the ropes formed by the binding curse on Tonks fell down one by one. This scene caused everyone present to go blank in the head, and the dark wizard's laughter came to an abrupt halt. But Charles' actions had not stopped. After the dust-free land spell erupted, Charles waved his wand again. Silently, without chanting the spell, but as the wand was waved, a very profound transfiguration was cast. The ground beneath the feet of the dark wizards began to churn. The originally solid bricks suddenly became soft, turning into a mire that trapped the few people. And the wands in their hands, the bundles in their arms, spun and flew towards Charles as he waved his wand. Looking at the spoils in his hands, Charles showed a satisfied expression. 4 wands, and 3 precious magical items. This haul was quite rich. All of this happened in an instant. By the time the dark wizards reacted, only their heads were exposed from the mire. At this moment, their eyes were wide, the confusion and horror in their eyes dissipated, and they finally understood one thing. Charles, this little wizard who hadn't even started Hogwarts, actually had the strength to crush them. And yet, Charles had pretended to be ignorant and walked into Nocturne Alley with them. This was clearly a deliberate plan to rob them. For a moment, a mix of grief and indignation surged in their hearts. Charles, you're already so rich, and you're still planning to rob things from poor people like them? Are you even human? At such a young age, you're already so heartless. However, since their lives were in Charles' hands, they dared not be angry and could only say humbly, Lord Charles, this time we were blind, we've fallen. But you haven't suffered any losses, and you've even taken 3 precious magical items from us. Isn't that enough? The leading middle-aged dark wizard even spoke with a mix of softness and hardness, trying to persuade Charles to return the 3 items to them. We are the dregs of the wizarding world, but you have a bright future. How can you degrade yourself and associate with us? Mr. Charles, robbery is not acceptable. Otherwise, if the Ministry of Magic finds out, if Hogwarts finds out, your future will be ruined. Charles raised an eyebrow, not expecting these dark wizards to still dare to speak. He said mockingly, Are you saying you're going to report me for robbery to the Ministry of Magic? Aren't you afraid that your attempt to kidnap me will be known to the Ministry of Magic, and you'll also be put on trial? The leading dark wizard said with a determined face, We are well versed in the laws of the wizarding world. We did not succeed in kidnapping, at most it's attempted crime, which won't result in much of a sentence. But Mr. Charles, you have actually committed robbery, and if the Ministry of Magic finds out, it will leave an indelible mark on your future. I advise you, you should return the things to us. How about we pretend today's events never happened? Charles scoffed. Are you kidding me? Something that's already in his hands, and he should give it back? He asked lightly. Since you know the laws of the wizarding world so well, I'd like to ask you for advice. Is there a minor protection law in the wizarding world? If I, an 11-year-old child who hasn't even entered Hogwarts, accidentally kill a few dark wizards due to excessive self-defense, will I be sentenced? The Wisengamot jury, what would they sentence me to in this situation? You must know a lot, right? Charles slowly raised his wand, and the mire began to churn again, causing the wizards to slowly sink further. At this moment, it was as if 10,000 grass-mud horses were galloping through the hearts of those dark wizards. Damn it, I forgot, this is an 11-year-old, one of the T0 versions, can't afford to provoke. The mire gradually submerged their chins, and the dark wizards let out terrified cries. Lord Charles, calm down, calm down. It's not worth it. Nocturne Alley isn't above the law either, don't mess around. We also have friends and family in Nocturne Alley, they are all powerful dark wizards. As soon as these words were spoken, the churning mire immediately solidified. Just as the dark wizards thought their warning might have worked, Charles revealed an expression that sent chills down their spines. Charles licked his lips, his eyes burning with eagerness. You have friends and family? And they're all powerful dark wizards? Good, very good, talented people, all talented people. What Charles, like most are talented people. Charles slowly grinned, looking at the deep Nocturne Alley as if he saw a treasure trove. He pointed his wand at the dark wizards. Go, send messages to the dark wizards you know in Nocturne Alley. Tell them there's an opportunity to get rich here, that your group can't handle it all, and tell them to come over. Join me on Patreon if you want to request a novel, link in the description. 35, Chapter 35, Reversing the Natural Order. Little mice, I found you. Charles' words came out, and not only were these few dark wizards stunned, but Tonks, who was standing by, was also stunned. She couldn't help but speak. Charles, let's go quickly, this is Nocturne Alley, it's too dangerous. Before she finished speaking, Charles glanced at her. You're so weak, and you still come to teach me how to do things? Immediately, with a wave of his wand, the ground beneath Tonks' feet also churned, turning into a mud swamp that submerged her. Charles nodded with satisfaction. This way, when he robs the dark wizards in Nocturne Alley later, he won't have to worry about Tonks, this precious material, escaping, nor will he have to worry about this woman causing any trouble. This was something he learned from watching countless movies in his previous life. When doing something big, all interfering factors must be eliminated to avoid any accidents. Then, the wand in his hand was aimed at those few dark wizards again. Are you going to call for people or not? These few dark wizards had a dreamy, dazed look on their faces. After exchanging glances, the meaning revealed in their eyes was the same. Why did we provoke him? Running into such a ruthless character, we've really had 8 lifetimes of bad luck. However, they were dark wizards after all, with no moral burdens. Facing Charles' wand and the gradually suffocating mud swamp created by the transfiguration spell, they nodded in agreement without hesitation. One of the dark wizards got his wand and obediently sent out the dark wizard's secret code into Nocturne Alley according to Charles' request. Then he carefully put down his wand and looked at Charles, a malicious light flashing in his eyes. Lord Charles, I did as you said. In a moment, our friends and family will all be here. In the depths of the eyes of the other dark wizards trapped in the mud swamp, a coldness also churned. This was Nocturne Alley, where countless dark wizards lurked. They didn't believe that Charles, a mere little wizard, could really suppress the entire Nocturne Alley. When more and more dark wizards came from Nocturne Alley later, Charles was bound to be defeated. By then, they swore they would repay Charles' actions 100-fold. Just at this moment, several figures in black robes hurried from within Nocturne Alley, still discussing the secret code that had just flown into Nocturne Alley. A chance to get rich? Charles has been caught. Where is he? Seeing Charles standing alone at the entrance of Nocturne Alley, these rushing dark wizards were overjoyed, their eyes full of greed. It's really Charles. This immense fortune has fallen upon us. But the next moment, the domain of the dustless land spread out again, enveloping them within. Several branches turned into ropes, wrapping around them, and then violently swung them. With a splash, these few dark wizards were also thrown into the mud pit, splashing mud stars everywhere. Their wands and the magical items they carried were scattered on the ground, becoming Charles' spoils of war. Charles pointed his wand at them and said coldly, "Keep calling for people from inside Nocturne Alley. Otherwise, although I don't know the Cruciatus curse, I guarantee that the taste of being drowned alive by muddy water will not be any better." These new dark wizards were full of astonishment, but they quickly recognized the situation. Several more secret codes flew towards the depths of Nocturne Alley. "Come quickly. This Charles has so many good things on him, we can't handle it, the few of us can't handle it at all. Everyone hurry up and come get rich together. Dark wizards don't lie to dark wizards." These continuous secret codes flying past also broke the silence of Nocturne Alley. At night, Nocturne Alley actually had shadowy figures appearing, almost as lively as Diagon Alley during the day. However, what greeted these dark wizards who wanted to get rich was not glittering galleons, but Charles' almost unsolvable combination of the dustless land spell and the transfiguration mud swamp. In just over 10 minutes, the entrance of Nocturne Alley was already covered in a dense mud swamp, filled with the dark wizards Charles had planted. Charles collected nearly 30 wands alone. Other scattered dark magic items were also scattered all over the ground, including a few items comparable to a chromantial venom. Looking at these gains, Charles took a deep breath, gazing at the eerie and deep Nocturne Alley before him as if it were a sacred place. Buying things elsewhere required money, but in Nocturne Alley, where the strong preyed on the weak, you didn't even need money. Was there a better place in the wizarding world than this? In Charles' heart, Nocturne Alley was now second only to Dreamrally. However, Charles glanced at the dark wizards planted in the mud and felt deeply dissatisfied with their number. Why are there so few people? Nocturne Alley is so big and deep, and I see so many doors and windows. Only about 30 dark wizards came out. Impossible. His gaze swept across Nocturne Alley. So, there are still quite a few dark wizards who haven't come out. Charles was quite unhappy about this. What's going on? As dark wizards, this immense fortune is right in front of you, and you're not coming out? You're really lacking in professionalism. If you keep not coming out, I'll go in and search house by house, okay? Immediately, Charles waved his wand, releasing the middle-aged dark wizard from the mud and conjuring ropes to tie him up securely. I, Charles, am kind-hearted. I can't stand to see the dark wizards of Nocturne Alley suffer from poverty. I must deliver the goods to your doorstep. You take me in and point them out door by door. At this moment, the middle-aged dark wizard, having witnessed dark wizards being planted in the mud by Charles like potatoes, had lost the light in his eyes. In his view, Charles was simply a monster. His courage had been completely shattered. Moreover, being planted in the mud and feeling the fear of being submerged at any moment was enough to consume his already limited courage. The middle-aged dark wizard was as obedient as a quail, leading Charles into Nocturne Alley and pointing out the dark wizard's house by house. He pointed to a door and said, "Here, a dark wizard lives here. He didn't come out." Charles grinned and shouted outside the door, "Open the door, Mr. Dark Wizard, please open the door. I brought you fortune." A muffled voice came from inside, but even through the door, the apprehension and fear within could be heard. "No need, I don't need it. I'm used to being poor. There's nothing wrong with being a little poor. Thank you for your kindness." The next moment, Charles one pointed at the door. Oxio. The unlocking charm, a spell learned in the first year at Hogwarts. With the amount of magical knowledge Charles possessed after numerous deductions in the Deep Blue system, he could skillfully use it after just flipping through an elementary spellbook. However, after the unlocking charm hit the lock, the door did not open. The middle-aged dark wizard explained, "Every door and window in Nocturne Alley can defend against the unlocking charm. After all, here, no one wants their home to be turned upside down every time they go out." A sigh of relief also came from inside the door. "Yes, that's right, I even reinforced this door specifically. You can't open it. Mr. Charles, I really don't want this opportunity to get rich. Let someone else have it." Charles took a deep breath. "Don't want it? I've come to bring you an opportunity to get rich, and you actually don't want it? Are you going to trample on my kindness and good intentions? Good intentions should not be repaid like this." Immediately, Charles softly chanted the incantation for the high-frequency laser curse. A bright and dazzling laser beam shot out from Charles' wand. The laser, which could easily melt and cut steel, sliced through the door before him like cutting tofu, creating a large opening and revealing the dark wizard inside, who was still looking bewildered and terrified. Before he could cast a spell, Charles waved his wand, and the messy clutter in the house transformed under transfiguration, suspending the dark wizard in mid-air, his wand and all his magical items falling out. Charles turned to look at the middle-aged dark wizard. "Next one." The middle-aged dark wizard's gaze grew more and more respectful, and he obediently led Charles through Nocturne Alley, going from house to house. The dazzling laser beam hardly stopped in Nocturne Alley. The screams of fear and fright from the dark wizards echoed in the night sky of Nocturne Alley, but outside the alley, there was only silence. In a bar in Nocturne Alley, several dark wizards hid behind the counter, curled up and trembling. Among them, some were clutching their wands and muttering angrily, "Shame, this is simply a disgrace. Nocturne Alley, which makes people tremble at the mere mention of it, and we, a bunch of vicious dark wizards, were actually beaten through by a little wizard, and were so scared that we hid behind the counter, trembling and not daring to come out. If this gets out, it will simply make dark wizards from other countries look down on us. Think about it, if those French dark wizards hear about this, can we still hold our heads high?" The dark wizards nearby also felt the same anger when they heard this. Those Frenchmen? What right do they have? When Grindelwald first rose, they were the ones who surrendered the fastest, and they dare to talk about us. No, we can't be looked down upon by anyone, especially not those Frenchmen. The dark wizard who spoke earlier nodded repeatedly. "That's right, we should go out and kill that guy Charles." The dark wizards next to him nodded in agreement. "Yes, that's right, kill Charles. Strongly agree. Since you said so, then you go." The dark wizard from before was stunned for a moment. "If we're going, let's go together. Why should I go? This is to protect everyone's reputation." The other dark wizards were dispirited. "Forget it, we're not young anymore, what reputation is there to speak of? When the Death Eaters were recruiting, weren't we all rejected? We're just a bunch of small fries, stop pretending to be some powerful dark wizards who can stop children from crying at night, okay? How much is reputation worth? Let's just hide here and not go out, I feel like Charles might not find us." Just then, a dazzling laser beam lit up. The doors and windows of the bar, which had been protected by defensive spells, were easily torn apart by the high-frequency laser curse. The light illuminated the pale faces of the dark wizards huddled behind the counter, and also illuminated Charles' smiling, wide grin. "Ah, there are still a few little mice hiding here. Found you. Join me on Patreon if you want to request a novel, link in the description." 36. You should be sorted into Azkaban. 3 Transfiguration deductions. Terrified screams pierced the night sky of Nocturne Alley, then quickly turned to silence as if swallowed by some monster. The few little mice Charles had found just now were now hanging upside down, suspended by ropes conjured by transfiguration. Their wands and magical items had also been completely plundered by Charles. Charles held a bag enchanted with the undetectable extension charm, but even though the space inside the bag had been greatly expanded, it still seemed a bit stretched thin at the moment, almost filled with the spoils from his journey through Nocturne Alley. Fortunately, after this bar, the area belonging to Nocturne Alley was also nearing its end. Charles strolled forward, and in front of him appeared an ancient-looking shop with the sign of Borgin and Burke's hanging above it. Narrowing his eyes slightly, Charles didn't blast the door open with a high-frequency laser spell as he had before. Instead, he stopped a distance away. Charles still harbored some apprehension towards this shop that had stood firm in Nocturne Alley. After Voldemort graduated from Hogwarts back then, he didn't even go to the Ministry of Magic, preferring to work in this shop. Although a large part of the reason was that Voldemort wanted to find some strange items here to make Horcruxes, Voldemort was not someone who liked to waste time. If he couldn't learn anything here, Voldemort wouldn't have stayed for long. And even the Voldemort who had just graduated from Hogwarts had already mastered advanced dark magic like making Horcruxes, and his strength had surpassed most Hogwarts professors. Yet, even so, he patiently stayed at Borgin and Burke's for a long time. A place where he could learn things must have very deep waters. What's more, the Vanishing Cabinet, a key item in the assassination of Dumbledore in the original work, also appeared in this shop. Being able to participate in this matter and play a key role further proved that this shop was fundamentally different from the other dark wizards outside. Before having the strength to never fail, Charles didn't plan to force his way into Borgin and Burke's. And just as Charles stopped in front of Borgin and Burke's, a greasy voice came from inside. "Mr. Charles, you've made a wise choice. Believe me, if you force your way into Borgin and Burke's, you will definitely pay an unimaginable price. How about this, let's make peace. How about you leave now?" Charles raised an eyebrow. He didn't plan to force his way in, but since he was already here, was he supposed to return empty-handed? The treasures in Borgin and Burke's were much better than the collections of those impoverished dark wizards. He sneered. "Make peace? Let's be frank, Charles, am robbing you." The greasy voice inside clearly carried a hint of anger. "Robbing? You can try. I guarantee that walking into Borgin and Burke's will be the most regrettable thing you do in your life." A strange look appeared on Charles' face. "Is that so? That might not be the case. Who said you have to go in to rob?" Charles said faintly, gripping his wand. "Mr. Borgin, do you believe I'll splash shit on your shop door?" Inside Borgin and Burke's, the greasy voice fell into a long silence, followed by an incomprehensible exclamation. "Charles, you're a black-hearted rogue. You're shameless." Charles shrugged. "Do you still need to talk about morals when dealing with dark wizards? Besides, I've never claimed to be a person of high morals." As he spoke, Charles seemed to remember something and rummaged through an undetectable extension pocket he carried with him, pulling out a magical camera. He said excitedly, "I'll film the whole process of splashing the shit later and send it to the Daily Prophet or the Quibbler or something." Inside the shop, Mr. Borgin was truly panicked. Splashing shit? Even dark wizards couldn't come up with such a nasty trick. Although his shop was in Nocturne Alley, many important figures came here to deal with some unsavory things. If photos of the shop being splashed with shit were to spread, those wealthy pureblood wizards probably wouldn't even step on the paving stones in front of his door. This made Mr. Borgin let out a vicious curse. "I really hope that hat at the Hogwarts sorting ceremony is smart for once and sorts you into Azkaban. That's where you belong." But immediately after, Mr. Borgin still held his nose and compromised, packing a few of the shop's treasures into a parcel and throwing it out. Charles waved his wand and opened the parcel, seeing the most conspicuous item inside, a shriveled human hand. This was a dark magic item called the Hand of Glory. When a candle was lit in the Hand of Glory, it would emit a light visible only to the holder, and it was enough to illuminate most magical fogs. In the original story, this item also played a significant role in Malfoy bringing Death Eaters into Hogwarts to assassinate Dumbledore. Charles hadn't expected Borgin to just hand this over. It was a pleasant surprise. This thing might even serve as material for further deduction of the Lumos spell. If I can incorporate the characteristic of being visible only to the user into the Eternal Blazing Sun spell, the power of the Eternal Blazing Sun spell might not increase, but its concealment will improve by who knows how much. The enemy won't even know how they died when they die. As for the other two items in the parcel, they weren't as special as the Hand of Glory and would likely be directly absorbed as deduction points. However, being placed alongside the Hand of Glory, the two items also contained considerable magical power and should provide a quite generous amount of deduction points. Satisfaction appeared in Charles' eyes. Compared to those impoverished dark wizards, Borgin was clearly much wealthier. When his strength was sufficient, he would visit again to see what other collections Borgin had. As for now, tonight's haul was already quite substantial. Charles had confiscated over 70 wands alone, dozens of various dark magic items, including precious materials like unicorn horn, a chromantula venom, and dragon heart, not to mention tonks, a metamorphmagus. Expectation appeared in Charles' eyes. I've long since gathered enough points for the second deduction of the animagus transformation. With this haul, plus Tonks's material, I might be able to perform 3 deductions on the animagus transformation in one go. Then this will be another magic that has undergone 3 deductions, following the Eternal Blazing Sun spell. Thinking about the power of the Eternal Blazing Sun spell, which was deduced from the Lumos spell, Charles didn't think the 3 deductions of the transformation towards the animagus direction would be inferior to the Eternal Blazing Sun spell. Perhaps, the problem that the wizarding world had never overcome, the magical animagus that could transform into a magical creature, would be born tonight. With this expectation, Charles carried his haul and hurried towards the entrance of Nocturne Alley. Join me on Patreon if you want to request a novel, link in the description. 37. You still say you're not undercover agents. When Charles returned to the entrance of Nocturne Alley, the group of dark wizards were still stuck in the mud created by the transfiguration spell, like potatoes planted in the ground. Seeing Charles emerge from the depths of Nocturne Alley, these dark wizards' eyes were filled with an intense, unshakable fear. During the time Charles was gone, they had prayed countless times that heaven would have eyes and let this audacious little wizard be killed in the depths of Nocturne Alley. But now, Charles had come out completely unharmed. The bag he was carrying even made clanking sounds with his steps, clearly filled with loot. What did this mean? It meant that the entire Nocturne Alley had truly been cleared out by Charles. Nocturne Alley, which ordinary wizards dreaded even hearing about, had been plundered today by a little wizard who hadn't even started school yet. What kind of little monster is this? Even Dumbledore, Grindelwald, or even the one whose name cannot be mentioned, couldn't possibly have this kind of strength at this age. Eyes filled with shock, awe, and even a hint of reverence looked towards Charles. And when Charles' gaze fell upon them, the dark wizards instinctively lowered their heads, adopting the humble posture of the weak facing the strong. Charles nodded in satisfaction, waved his wand, and released Tonks from the swamp. At this moment, Tonks was also filled with shock. She couldn't imagine that a little wizard had accomplished such a feat, robbing this group of dark wizards in Nocturne Alley blind. Is this really an 11-year-old? Tonks, who had always thought her talent was quite good, suddenly felt a strong sense of disillusionment. Am I really that bad? But then, Tonks snapped back to reality and couldn't help but try to persuade Charles. Charles, what you did is wrong. Although these are dark wizards, this is robbery, and the amount is huge. If the Ministry of Magic finds out, you'll be in big trouble. Before she could finish, Charles frowned. So noisy. With a wave of his wand, several ropes twisted into a ball and were stuffed into Tonks's mouth, leaving her only able to make faint muffled sounds. Then, even tighter ropes wrapped around Tonks, binding her hands and feet securely, to prevent her from operating away and causing Charles to lose this unique animagus material that couldn't be found anywhere else in the wizarding world. It was at this moment, as if reminded by Tonks's words just now, that Charles, who had been planning to leave, scanned the dark wizards and asked, "You heard it too, the commotion tonight was quite big. If the Ministry of Magic finds out, I'll be in a lot of trouble. You wouldn't go to the Ministry of Magic to report me and say I robbed you, would you? I'm going to Hogwarts soon to study, and I don't want to face ministry inquiries every few days. Will you go to the Ministry of Magic?" The dark wizards' hearts trembled, and they quickly shook their heads, not daring to hesitate for a moment. They had no doubt now that if their answer didn't satisfy Charles, they might really be drowned in the mud by this little monster. No, how could we? We're dark wizards, how could we go to the Ministry of Magic to report someone? Lord Charles, please rest assured, we dark wizards have professional ethics. Charles raised an eyebrow and continued to ask. Then if someone investigates and asks what happened tonight and why there was such a big commotion, what will you say? The dark wizards fell silent. The next moment, a quick-wit dark wizard immediately said, "Our Nocturne Alley has always had simple folk customs, everyone is like family, loving and helping each other. We are also incredibly enthusiastic towards children who come to Nocturne Alley. The commotion tonight was Nocturne Alley holding a welcome ceremony for Mr. Charles." Charles paused, a smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. "Then your doors and windows are all broken, many people are submerged in the mud, and many are hanging upside down." This time, the quick-wit dark wizard didn't even need to think of a solution. Other dark wizards immediately followed this line of thought. This is all part of the carnival. We were so happy, we were so excited to see Mr. Charles come to Nocturne Alley that we tore down our own doors and windows. As for being submerged in the mud, and hanging upside down, these are all performances. We were performing mud-holding breath, and those were performing acrobatics. Charles asked the last question with satisfaction. Then if someone asks where your wands and many magical items went, how will you answer? All the dark wizards present gave the same answer in unison. Gifts. Local specialties. Mr. Charles is leaving Nocturne Alley, and we are truly reluctant to see him go, so we've given all these things to Mr. Charles as gifts and local specialties. We all gave them voluntarily. At this, Charles was completely satisfied. He reached out, intending to pull Tonks towards the leaky cauldron to properly study the material for animagus transformation. But seeing Tonks covered in mud, Charles withdrew his hand, a look of disgust on his face. He used transfiguration to conjure a garbage cart and tossed Tonks into it. At this moment, Tonks, staring at the walls of the garbage cart, had a face full of despair, as if her soul had been sucked out of the world. She had only one thought in her mind: let this wizarding world just be destroyed. Long after Charles left Nocturne Alley with Tonks, the mud and ropes created by transfiguration were finally dispelled. The black wizards, covered in dust and dirt, shivered and moved their stiff bodies. Tonight had been a complete and utter nightmare for them. After recovering slightly, all the black wizards showed expressions of hatred, their gazes directed at the black wizards who had initially brought Charles to Diagon Alley. You guys were the ones who led Charles here? Are you out of your minds? Why did you provoke him? Now look, it's gone, I've lost everything, all the galleons on me were taken by Charles. You guys aren't spies sent by Charles, are you? Seeing this scene, those few black wizards also swallowed hard. The middle-aged black wizard quickly defended himself. How could that be? How could we be spies sent by Charles? We have a deep hatred for Charles, an irreconcilable enmity. Then, he quickly added, it's not over, what happened today is definitely not over. We can't just let Charles off like this, we have to get back what we earned through our labor. Just now, everyone was just pretending with Charles, right? Now that Charles is gone, we can speak freely. We'll go to the Ministry of Magic, we'll go to the Wisengamot Court, we'll go to Hogwarts and hang banners to demand an explanation. That lunatic Charles shouldn't even think about entering Hogwarts. We'll make him lose his eligibility to attend Hogwarts, we'll have the Wisengamot sentence him to have his wand snapped, we'll make Charles pay for what he did today. He and his direct descendants for 3 generations won't be able to apply to the Ministry of Magic. Before he could finish speaking, a heavy slap landed on the middle-aged black wizard's face. This was followed by the increasingly angry voices of the surrounding black wizards. If that happens, and Charles doesn't go to Hogwarts, won't he have no choice but to hang around in the black wizard world? Then what about us? You're so cruel, such a malicious suggestion, are you trying to kill us? Son of a bitch, and you still say you're not spies. Beat these dog spies to death, expel them from the black wizard ranks. Join me on Patreon if you want to request a novel, link in the description. 38. Voldemort can't take it anymore, the old bee is too shameless. Outside Nocturne Alley, the few dark wizards who had previously lured Charles and were now fleeing, bruised and limping, their faces a picture of dejection. They had originally planned to make a fortune off Charles, this fat sheep, and live the life of wealthy wizards. But they never expected that this wasn't a fat sheep at all, but a tiger in sheep's clothing. Not only did they fail to make any money, but the 3 precious materials they had bought with mortgage loans were snatched by Charles, even their wands were taken, and they were now ostracized by other dark wizards. The day of reckoning with Gringotts was fast approaching. If they couldn't come up with the money to pay off their debts, they knew without a doubt that those goblins would squeeze every last drop of value out of them for the rest of their lives. The few dark wizards looked at each other. What do we do now? It looks like we can't stay in the British wizarding world. I heard Gringotts is as cruel as ice and snow to wizards who owe them money. Just as they felt they were at a dead end, the leading middle-aged dark wizard gritted his teeth and said, I know a rumor that might turn things around for us. Everyone's eyes turned to him. The middle-aged dark wizard continued, I heard there's a legend in the wilderness of North Scotland. The legend says there was a pair of wizard grave robbers who specialized in stealing treasures from tombs, living a rich life, and even enjoying grave robbing. Until one day, they dug up an ancient tomb and unearthed an exquisite magical necklace from it. It said that the necklace was made of a magical metal never seen before, shaped like the fangs of some wild beast. Just looking at it would make you feel a chilling terror mixed with a magnificent beauty. Later, this pair of wizard grave robbers disappeared. Some say they had an internal conflict over the necklace and died in a duel, while others say there was a special magic on the necklace that drove them mad, and they took it to their own graves. But one thing is certain, that magical necklace is absolutely priceless. If we can dig it out of the grave in the North Scotland wilderness, won't we turn things around? As soon as he said this, the other dark wizards also showed signs of being tempted. A priceless magical necklace was their only chance to turn things around now. The middle-aged dark wizard further encouraged them. A person can be unlucky for a while, but they can't be unlucky forever, right? We've already hit rock bottom, there's nothing left to fear. A moment later, the few of them unanimously decided to go to the wilderness of North Scotland to search for the legendary magical Fong necklace. Meanwhile, in Diagon Alley, the garbage truck squeaked and rolled on its own. Tonks, inside the truck, was jolted repeatedly and felt utterly hopeless. Being tied up by a young wizard and shoveled away in a garbage truck like this, Tonks felt like she was having an incredibly absurd nightmare. Charles, on the other hand, walked slowly beside the truck, looking quite leisurely. But if you looked closely, you would notice that his fingers were tightly gripping the mithril wand, his knuckles appearing somewhat prominent and white. Then, as if he had tripped, Charles stumbled. In reality, he used this opportunity to quickly turn around, pointing his wand at a shadow on the street. "You've been following me all the way. Come out." After a moment of silence, a figure wrapped in a large turban slowly emerged from the shadows. A curious voice rang out, "How did you find me?" Looking at the figure, Charles' expression was extremely solemn. Wearing a turban wrapped around the back of his head in this weather, this person's identity was also obvious. It was Quirrell, the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor who was possessed by Voldemort in the original story and broke into Hogwarts to steal the Philosopher's Stone. Under that turban, on the back of Quirrell's head, was Voldemort's face. Charles didn't know when Quirrell had started following him, but now he figured it was likely that Quirrell had also been in Diagon Alley earlier. He had witnessed everything Charles did and then followed him all the way. If Charles hadn't cast a dust-free land curse when leaving Nocturne Alley to completely eliminate the magical traces he left behind, which happened to cover the area where Quirrell was, and sensed that extremely suffocating and terrifying magical power, Charles wouldn't have discovered that there was such a person lurking in the shadows. At this moment, Charles felt cold sweat gradually seeping out from his back. He wasn't afraid of Quirrell, he was wary of Voldemort on Quirrell. Although Voldemort was currently in a state of a remnant soul, far from his peak, a starved camel is still bigger than a horse. Even someone like Dumbledore didn't act rashly before fully understanding the remaining strength of Voldemort, so Charles was naturally very wary. While tightly gripping his wand, Charles was already prepared to utter the killing curse. He also felt a wave of relief. It was a good thing he had previously deduced apparition, otherwise, in this situation, if he couldn't win, he would truly be the fish on the chopping block, and the other person the butcher. For now, at least, he could still run. However, to Charles' slight relief, Quirrell didn't seem to have any intention of attacking, but instead applauded him. "I saw you mistakenly enter Nocturne Alley earlier and was planning to step in and protect you, but then I realized there was no need at all. Mr. Charles, you are a Muggle-born wizard, and you haven't even enrolled at Hogwarts yet, but your mastery of transfiguration has reached such a profound level. If we were at Hogwarts right now, I would add 100 points to your house." After praising him, Quirrell revealed his identity. "Don't worry, I'm not a bad person. I am the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor hired by Hogwarts this year. I was in Nocturne Alley earlier buying some materials for my classes, and I didn't expect to witness such an astonishing scene." Then, Quirrell even blinked, as if trying to get closer to Charles. "I won't tell anyone about what happened tonight. After all, everyone should have some little secrets, shouldn't they?" And in the next moment, Quirrell's demeanor became even colder and more sinister. He casually waved his wand, and a street lamp by the road turned into a thick python, coiled on the street, hissing. This scene, falling into Charles' eyes, caused his pupils to shrink slightly, and he marveled in his heart. It seemed that Voldemort, who was possessing Quirrell, had made a move. Was he showing off his strength? Such transfiguration was indeed superb. Although Charles had initially deduced transfiguration, his mastery was only profound compared to ordinary wizards. Compared to monstrous geniuses like Voldemort and Dumbledore, he couldn't even match their level when they graduated, let alone the current Voldemort. Just the display of skill by Voldemort caused the deep blue prompt to sound in Charles' mind. Host has obtained material for the Living Transfiguration branch of Transfiguration. The points required for secondary deduction in this direction have decreased. This prompt made Charles' heart leap with joy. Good heavens, he didn't expect that in his first meeting with Voldemort, he would receive a small gift. As for why Voldemort would show off his transfiguration mastery in front of him, Charles probably guessed that he wanted to tempt him, so that he would continue to seek him out after entering Hogwarts, and even help him steal the Philosopher's Stone. He might even want to make him a hidden piece lurking beside Dumbledore. And this made a thought surface in Charles' mind. Opportunities to come into contact with wizards of Voldemort's level were not many. Although Dumbledore had previously agreed to teach Charles more spells, that Oldby was too wary of others and would set up tests at every turn, which was really not pleasant. If he could see more advanced magic from Voldemort, the materials alone that Deep Blue could obtain would be enough to save Charles a lot of deduction points in the future. However, Voldemort wasn't running a charity. Possessing Quirrell consumed his own power, and unless he was greatly provoked, he probably wouldn't display too much profound magic. Was there any way to make Voldemort act impulsively? Just as Charles was calculating, Voldemort, possessing Quirrell, spoke tempting words. Charles, your talent and aptitude are not something ordinary professors can teach you. But I happen to know some powerful magic, such as the transfiguration you just saw. After school starts, you can come to me for guidance on any magic you need to learn. I, as a professor, never hide anything. Looking at Charles, Voldemort was very confident, believing that this young wizard would definitely be unable to resist the temptation to seek him out. How could a talented young wizard with such mastery of transfiguration before even enrolling resist the temptation to learn more profound magic? At this moment, Charles' eyes lit up, and a thought flashed through his mind like lightning. Immediately, a look of disappointment appeared on his face. Ah, Professor, I thought you were going to teach me something, but it turns out it's transfiguration. Then, Charles lowered his voice and said, then I'll tell you a little secret too. Headmaster Dumbledore has already promised me that he will personally teach me transfiguration after school starts. The headmaster also said that his transfiguration is the strongest in the entire wizarding world. I also asked the headmaster who was better at transfiguration, him or the mysterious person, and the headmaster said that the mysterious person wasn't even fit to carry his shoes. According to the headmaster, many of the mysterious person's spells were actually plagiarized from his notes, and then shamelessly claimed as his own. It's simply utterly shameless. After Charles said these words, Quirrell's expression gradually stiffened. What? Headmaster Dumbledore, the old headmaster said that. Damn it, that's really shameless. Join me on Patreon if you want to request a novel, link in the description. 39. Voldemort's Breakdown, Time to Harvest. Shameless, this is simply too shameless. Quirrell was gnashing his teeth and cursing. Charles, however, tilted his head and asked with a face full of curiosity, Professor, why are you so angry? Who are you calling shameless? Quirrell's expression stiffened, and he forced a smile, gritting his teeth and saying word by word, I'm saying the mysterious person who plagiarized Headmaster Dumbledore's magic is shameless, absolutely too shameless. Stealing magical achievements, this is the most despised thing in the wizarding world. Charles nodded in full agreement. Right, I think so too. Headmaster Dumbledore told me that the mysterious person is famous for the killing curse, claiming to have developed the killing curse from runic script, but that's not the case at all. The headmaster said that the killing curse was something he had developed long ago, but because it was too cruel, he only wrote it in his notes. As a result, it was stolen by the mysterious person and became the mysterious person's signature. Voldemort, occupying Quirrell's body, froze, as if falling into some kind of confusion. Immediately after, Charles dropped another bombshell. The headmaster also said that the mysterious person's transfiguration was also stolen from him, and they only learned the basics. Back then, the mysterious person wanted to complete a transfiguration called Oxio, to turn into a giant snake, but something went wrong, and it was Headmaster Dumbledore who turned him back. The reason the mysterious person lost his nose was a side effect of that Oxio transfiguration. The headmaster mentioned it and just shook his head, saying he wished he hadn't saved the mysterious person back then and just let him eat rats until he died. Voldemort's face turned green then purple. He never expected to hear such news from Charles. Dumbledore, that cunning old bee, was actually slandering him with such words behind his back. The killing curse was clearly his proud achievement. When did it become his? And the reason he lost his nose was completely intentional. Alright, it was a trivial price paid in dark magic transfiguration. How did it become him failing at transfiguration and being saved by Dumbledore? Rumors, all of them are slandering rumors. Dumbledore, that old bee, how many rumors did he spread during the years he disappeared? However, after the anger, Voldemort still had a hint of doubt. He didn't really think Dumbledore was a saint, but could Dumbledore's character really be this low? This little wizard Charles isn't just talking nonsense, is he? The next moment, a flicker of light passed through Voldemort's eyes. This was his innate ability, similar to legilimency, which had reached its peak after continuous refinement and dark magic transfiguration, allowing him to distinguish almost any lie. Lying in front of the Dark Lord was considered impossible among the Death Eaters. Even with only this much soul left, Voldemort could still use this ability. He wanted to see if what Charles said was true. At the same time, a deep blue voice sounded in Charles' mind. Host has obtained legilimency magic material. The points required to deduce the legilimency spell will be greatly reduced. A strange look also flashed through Charles' eyes. Since Deep Blue said so, it meant that the current Voldemort was already getting angry, right? Almost a natural instinct like legilimency, no one can lie in front of the Dark Lord. What if he wasn't lying? Charles pondered for a moment, then started fanning the flames again. In Headmaster Dumbledore's heart, he only has one true opponent and nemesis, and that is Grindelwald. As for the mysterious person, in Dumbledore's eyes, he's not even as good as a single hair of Grindelwald. The only being in Dumbledore's heart who can be called a Dark Lord is Grindelwald alone. As soon as these words came out, Voldemort, who was using his innate talent to judge the truth of Charles' words, froze there directly. It was true, he could sense that everything Charles said was true. If the previous words were to anger Voldemort and make him feel that Dumbledore, that old bee, was becoming more and more shameless, these few sentences now completely broke Voldemort's defense. He never expected that he considered Dumbledore his biggest opponent, but in Dumbledore's eyes, he, the Dark Lord who created a catastrophe, was nothing, not even comparable to the failed and outdated Grindelwald. Why, wouldn't that make him look like a clown? Dumbledore. Voldemort's heart let out bursts of angry roars. You will pay for those words. Then, as if he had made some kind of decision, his eyes turned much colder as he looked at Charles and said, Charles, Dumbledore's magic is certainly powerful, but I have traveled the wizarding world for many years and have also obtained some mysterious and powerful magic that may not be inferior to Dumbledore's. Come to my office after school starts, and I will teach you all of these spells. Believe me, once you cast them, I guarantee Headmaster Dumbledore will be startled. Charles raised his eyebrows, showing a look of skepticism. Really? All right then, Professor, I'll give you a chance. Voldemort took a deep breath and turned to leave into the shadows. He returned his body to Quirrell, and Quirrell, who had regained control of his body, was as pale as paper and asked tremblingly, Master, are you really going to teach Charles magic? Voldemort's voice, filled with infinite anger, echoed in his soul. I originally only intended to use Charles as a pawn, using his pursuit of power to see if he could be useful. But now, I've changed my mind. That damned old man Dumbledore, I want him to know what kind of price he has to pay for completely angering me. I will prove through Charles that Dumbledore's outdated magic is insignificant compared to mine. I want Charles to completely embrace the darkness and severely harm Dumbledore and his Order of the Phoenix. Voldemort's voice was sinister. Doesn't Dumbledore have his boy who lived? Just right, I heard that this Charles has also recently been called another boy who lived, so he will belong to me. Then, Voldemort urged Quirrell, get ready, I need to break into Gringotts as soon as possible and get the Philosopher's Stone to reshape my body. I've had enough of this kind of life. Once I reshape my body, I will definitely make Dumbledore feel fear, and I will make this Charles grovel at my feet. Watching Quirrell's figure disappear into the distance, Charles' tense body gradually relaxed, and he let out a long breath. It must be said that although Charles successfully provoked Voldemort and broke his defense by relying on his familiarity with the plot, gaining the opportunity to learn Voldemort's advanced dark magic at Hogwarts. However, the pressure brought by the enraged Voldemort just now was also immense for Charles. If they had really fought, and Charles' magic didn't work immediately, he would have probably had to use apparition to escape. It could only be said that his current strength was still quite far from the level of Dumbledore and Voldemort. In the eyes of others, this was a matter of course. After all, Dumbledore and Voldemort were the peak existences in the wizarding world. For a young wizard like Charles to want to compete with them in strength was simply insane. But a cold glint appeared in Charles' eyes. He didn't like this feeling of being suppressed. And the chasm that was difficult for ordinary people to cross might only take him one night. After taking a deep breath, Charles quickened his pace and returned to the leaky cauldron with Tonks. Clang, clang, Charles poured out a large bag of spoils, his expression gradually becoming fervent. This was the harvest from raiding Nocturne Alley tonight. If it was all digested, the 3 deductions of transfiguration would be completed. He didn't dare to say he could face Voldemort at his peak, but Voldemort possessing Quirrell, Charles might not be unable to challenge him. The next moment, Charles grabbed a bottle of Aragog venom and gulped it down. Deep Blue, time to eat. Join me on Patreon if you want to request a novel, link in the description. 300,000 points. Deduction begins. As a bottle of acromantula venom went down, a series of Deep Blue prompts immediately sounded in Charles' mind. Deduction points plus 100. Deduction points plus 100. While the prompts were sounding, Charles had no intention of stopping. A unicorn horn was also stuffed into his mouth. Because the dragon heart was too large, Charles directly used the laser spell to cut it into several pieces, then swallowed them one piece at a time. Next, the dark wizard's wands were also lined up by Charles into a long string, and like eating a bowl of longevity noodles, he slurped them all into his stomach. Even the dangerous magical items scattered all over the ground, Charles didn't bat an eye. Apart from the Hand of Glory which he planned to study further to continue deducing the Lumos spell, the other magical items were devoured by Charles like a whirlwind sweeping away clouds. When the last magical item disappeared into Charles's mouth, the deep blue prompts in his mind finally stopped. The rapidly growing total number of deduction points also slowly came to a halt, finally stopping at 300,000 points. Looking at this unprecedented number, Charles' eyes showed ecstasy. Having been in contact with the wizarding world for so long, this was the first time he had so many deduction points. Killing and arson lead to a golden belt. The ancients truly did not deceive me. However, based on Charles' previous experience in deducing spells, a more advanced spell usually requires close to 1,000,000 points to complete 3 deductions. Transfiguration should be no exception. 300,000 points is still some distance from 3 deductions. But Charles happened to have Tonks, the only metamorphmagus in the wizarding world, who was born with some characteristics of oxiotransfiguration. In the judgment of the Deep Blue system, this is considered an extremely precious high-level material. The material obtained from her can greatly reduce the deduction points required for oxiotransfiguration. 300,000, plus Tonks, should be enough. Charles got up and went to a room in the suite. When he first returned, to prevent Tonks from seeing him swallowing a chromantula venom, dragon heart, and many dangerous magical items, he had directly locked Tonks in the room. And now, it was time for the final harvest. At this moment, Tonks, who was locked in the room, showed panic in her eyes when she saw Charles arrive. This little wizard Charles' actions were too unexpected, and she didn't know what Charles would do to her. Then, Charles raised his wand at Tonks, untied the rope that was gagging Tonks's mouth, and said coldly, "Use your metamorphmagus ability and transform for me to see. When I am satisfied, I will let you go." Tonks's eyes widened. What exactly did Charles want to do? He went to such great lengths to bring her back, just to make her use her metamorphmagus ability. After a moment, Tonks gritted her teeth and said, "I am an Auror, you can't do this to me. Charles, you are now suspected of kidnapping. First robbery, now kidnapping. You are still a child, you can't go further and further down the wrong path." Charles took a deep breath, his eyes showing impatience. He wasn't really a child, his values had long been set. He didn't have time to listen to such educational lectures. If Tonks hadn't been a decent person and had tried to protect him when he was surrounded by dark wizards, Charles wouldn't have let her off easily, just for her actions of staking out and following him. Charles said coldly, "Do you know why Borgin and Burks in Nocturne Alley bowed their heads and were willing to hand over a few precious magical items to me?" He approached Tonks step by step, saying words that made Tonks's mind go blank. "Because I threatened Borgin that if he didn't give me some benefits, I would throw feces at his shop and take pictures of the whole process to send to the Daily Prophet and other newspapers. I have photos of you being subdued by dark wizards, being planted in the mud by me, and being tied up with ropes. Tonks, right? You'd better obey me and fully demonstrate your metamorphmagus ability for me. This way, I guarantee these photos won't be leaked. Otherwise, are you afraid of what Borgin was afraid of?" After realizing what Charles meant, Tonks's face turned pale, and she let out a scream, completely abandoning the idea of persuading Charles. "No. I'll do it, I'll do it." Immediately after, under Charles' wand, Tonks used her metamorphmagus ability, and her pink hair gradually turned fiery red. Her pupils also turned ice blue. Charles stared intently at Tonks, and the deep blue prompt sounded in his mind. Host has obtained metamorphmagus material. The deduction points for the second and third deductions of oxiotransfiguration will be greatly reduced. Please continue to obtain more metamorphmagus material. So Charles kept urging Tonks, "Put in more effort, change your face shape too. I have celebrity posters here, just change into each one according to the pictures. What about your figure? Can you change your figure?" Each time Tonks was transforming, Charles' hands would slowly move across her face and body, feeling the strange reaction of Tonks' body changing under the influence of magic. Charles now had some understanding of the metamorphmagus ability. No wonder it was called animagus. It did indeed have similarities with traditional animagus transfiguration. However, traditional animagus involves transforming the entire body into an animal, while metamorphmagus cannot transform into an animal, only change appearance, figure, and so on at will. But this has extremely high reference value. If traditional animagus could change as freely as metamorphmagus, for example, if one could freely transform between countless animals like brown bears, wild wolves, and birds, then its uses would undoubtedly be much more extensive. In addition, metamorphmagus transformation is very stable, so much so that it can be passed down to offspring through bloodline. This characteristic related to magical inheritance also has strong reference value for magical animagus whose goal is to transform into magical creatures. As Charles' hand moved around Tonks' body a few times, the Deep Blue prompt finally stopped sounding. This also meant that Deep Blue had finished collecting all the metamorphagus material. At this point, Charles checked the points required for the second deduction of transfiguration towards the animagus direction again. This had decreased from the original 50,000 points to 20,000 points. And the points for the next 3 deductions would also decrease accordingly. Charles took a deep breath, his eyes showing anticipation. 30,000 points, enough for 2 consecutive deductions. At this moment, a blush appeared on Tonks' face, and her gaze toward Charles was extremely resentful. During the process of collecting material, Charles had touched her body without reservation several times. Tonks now wished she could bite a piece of flesh out of Charles. How could such a young wizard who hadn't even started school yet be so bad? Feeling Tonks' gaze, Charles seemed to remember something. He took his hand off Tonks. Sorry, it wasn't intentional, I just wanted to feel the process of metamorphagus more clearly. Tonks stared intently at Charles. I don't believe a word you say. Charles, I'm telling you, I'm going to fight you, I'm not done with you. Before she finished speaking, a muffled thud sounded. Charles withdrew the sturdy mithril wand in his hand and apologized to Tonks, who had fallen unconscious on the ground. Sorry, I don't have points to waste on the stunning spell, and I don't have time to argue with you, so I could only use this physical stunning spell. But it seems to work quite well. Then he tied Tonks up securely and locked her in the room to prevent her from disturbing him later. After doing all this, Charles clenched his fist tightly and said in his mind, Deep Blue, Transfiguration, Animagus Direction. Deduce it for me. Join me on Patreon if you want to request a novel, link in the description.
Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today. Also, you can request any novel so I can turn into audiobooks. Check out our Patreon for more details.